Okay, declaring the meeting open for second meeting of the CPAC advisory, the Community Advisory Committee to the South Maui Community Plan. Let's see. Rina mai e nalala wa kikomike o lalo o kakaia unu no ka papa o lala no Maui hama. Rina mai no hoi e kapo e o ke ena o lala o ki kalana o Maui. Me ka daho o Maui. I kuka ki komike I kia la I na lula o malu o ke komike. So I thought I'd take this just a minute here to explain why I did that and why I started the last meeting in Hawaiian too. On January 24th, 2018, my instructor in Hawaiian at the time, Kumukalikoa Ka'eo, appeared in court concerning opposition to a new telescope on Haleakala. When he was summoned, he replied, "E no wau ke kune, here I am." But the judge refused to acknowledge his presence and asked again 2 times, and Kalikoa answered the same way. The judge then issued a bench warrant for his arrest for failure to appear in court. Now, Hawaiian is one of Hawaii's 2 official languages, and so there were strong reactions both inside and outside the judicial system. The judge withdrew the arrest order within a day, and new rules were issued for the courts to provide an interpreter when requested by a Hawaiian language speaker. And since then, I always introduce my presence and my topic in Hawaiian whenever I'm in a governmental or other public context to reinforce the legitimacy of Olelo Hawaii in public places in the land of Hawaii. I have a few small housekeeping things to do before we start the actual meeting. First is I would like to ask you all if it's okay if we address each other by first name only, no titles, no last name. And we don't need a motion for this, we just need to, if there's no opposition, I'll just carry it. So I'll ask, is anyone opposed to it that we address each other and present each other by first name only? Thank you, I find that carries. That makes things a lot easier for me. The next thing is we will take a break like we did last time, a half hour for dinner, which is being provided by the planning department. But the question is, should we aim for 6:30 or should we aim for 7 o'clock today? 7? 6:45. I'm thinking 7. That was my thought too, just because things go slower and harder later the evening drags on. So we'll have more energy until 7. After that, we kind of need a break. Everyone okay with 7 o'clock for the break? Okay. So I did a short introduction today of why I spoke in Hawaiian, and I timed it earlier to 1 minute and 15 seconds. So here's a proposal. I would like everyone in rotating order to do a 1-minute presentation introduction at each meeting. It doesn't have to be 1 minute. I'm not going to time you. It could be 2 minutes or whatever. It could be half a minute if you want. And it can be about whatever, but ideally something having to do with what we have on our table, which is the South Maui Community Plan. Does that sound like a good idea? Just so we get to know each other and kind of just spend 1 minute in the beginning of the meeting doing that? Cool. Does anyone volunteer? Otherwise I'm going to appoint somebody. Volunteer for the next time. 1 minute introduction. Tova is it. Cool. Next we have a generous contribution from Councilmember King that you wanted to present.
Okay, well, all of you have a box in front of you that says Adican, and it's inside is a cushion because I know what it's like to sit on these hard seats for hours at a time, and because I'd like to get compensated from back from my office. They're actually the property of South Maui District Office, but I'm not going to hunt you down and track you down if you don't bring it back. So I just figured everybody would want to take it home and bring it back rather than having Pam or the planning department having to take them back and bring them for everybody every time. So you're all responsible for your own, but I hope that makes your work a little more comfortable.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add that the boxes, we'll take the boxes, you take what's in them, and you can put the boxes in the boxes behind me whenever it's convenient for you. And then we're just going to hang on to the boxes. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I was wondering if there would be a camp here who feels that government business should always be conducted on hard surfaces. But I guess not. Okay. And then I want to let everyone know who is here and interested in testifying that we ask that you testify when the agenda item comes up. And we'll actually present the item first so you have something substantial to testify about rather than testify before the presentation. However, if you're not able to stay, if you have something in mind that you're planning to testify on, but you can't stay until that item comes up, you can testify now in the beginning of the meeting. So is there anyone in the audience who wants to testify but cannot stay until their item comes up in the meeting? Okay, thank you. Okay, the first item on our agenda is the rules of practice and procedure for the South Maui Community Plan Advisory Committee. And we will have a presentation and introduction by Michael Hopper, Deputy Corporation Counsel. I have a few small additions to make to that afterwards. And then we'll take testimony from the audience. And after that, we'll discuss it among ourselves. So, Deputy Corporation Counsel Hopper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the South Maui CPAC. My name is Michael Hopper. I'm a Deputy Corporation Counsel. I worked on the rules of practice and procedure that were noticed for public hearing today. And I'm here to help I'll give a brief presentation on what the rules are and can be available to answer any questions after public testimony. These rules are basic procedural rules that many county boards and commissions follow or follow similar rules to these. These were essentially modeled after rules that three general plan advisory committees, three other community plan advisory committees have used as sort of a template. So these rules have been in use previously. They're not intended to be particularly substantive as far as any of your recommendations or anything with respect to your recommendations on the plan. They're mainly to set up a procedural framework where you can do your work and eventually make your recommendations to the department, to the council, and to the planning commission. The rules go through a variety of items that are required by state law, including public notice, public testimony, amendments to your rules, things like that. There's not a lot of discretion to change those because they essentially mirror state law. Among other things, they do adopt Robert's Rules of Order so that the presentation you heard, I think last week from Mr. Whitaker, these formally adopt the Robert's Rules of Order as sort of your procedural rules. So that gives you a good framework, I think, for working through your recommendations. And so other than that, I don't have a lot to add. I know the chairperson had some proposed amendments to the rules. The other thing I should mention, the rules that were posted, there were some minor formatting changes made in a later posted version. The indentation was sort of left aligned and the rules were sort of centralized and the rule citation instead of 10-103, which is actually which were actually the former West Maui Community Plan Advisory Committee rules, have been changed to 10-104. So I would ask that if you do have a motion to approve the rules, that they would be at least starting from the format that was most recently provided, with any amendments that you may have from any person, or I understand the chairperson has a brief presentation on some proposed changes that he may have. I'd suggest that be done prior to public testimony so that members of the public may potentially testify on that, and that there be questions after testimony, because of course there might be questions raised by the testimony that you'd want to ask either myself or potentially staff, I suppose. But I can try to help answer questions on these rules. Again, these are not necessarily reinventing the wheel. They are modeled after the same procedural rules that multiple boards and commissions, including other community plan and general plan advisory committees, have used. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the chairperson. I think he had wanted to have a discussion on proposed amendments that he was proposing, and then you can go into public testimony, and then after that, up to the chair. But after that, you can have questions, deliberation, and a motion, and eventually a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. So these are pretty small amendments. The first one is on 10-104-6, which is about communications. And it says, unless otherwise specifically directed, all communications to the South Maui CPAC shall be directed to the department at One Main Plaza. And the addition is, all communications to the South Maui CPAC which were directed to the Department of Planning's Long Range Division shall be made available to the members of the CPAC. So that's the first addition. It's going to be hard for everyone to keep this all in memory, so I'm going to ask for each small item here if there are comments or questions. Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward, nothing revolutionary. The next one is on 10-104-8 about meetings. Section D says, the South Maui CPAC shall allow all interested persons an opportunity to submit data, views, arguments, or present oral or written testimony on any agenda item in an open meeting. And so I added or written. So in other words, present oral or written testimony on any agenda item. Any questions or comments on that? The next one is 10-104-10 agenda. And it says that I moved that because actually I started off with seven proposals, but after discussion with Mike Hopper, I realized that one of them is invalid, so it reduced to 6. So on this one, 10-104-10 agenda. I'll just read it, it's not that long. The South Maui CPAC shall file an agenda with the county clerk at least 6 calendar days before the meeting. Nothing on the agenda shall be changed without a 2/3 recorded vote of all members to which the South Maui CPAC is entitled. An item of major importance that may affect a significant number of persons shall not be added to an agenda. My addition is, agendas will be drafted by the department and approved by the CPAC chair. That's my addition. Yes.
Will we be making changes to what's proposed by the department?
Yes, absolutely. Could make changes or additions to the proposal.
And will we see the original draft?
I suppose that's certainly possible.
As long as we can see the changes.
Yes.
See the department's recommendation.
And again, Chair, just
Yes.
a quick reminder. Oh, yeah, just as a quick reminder. Oh, yeah, and then using the mic's important too, I think. But just as a quick reminder, I think you could have, if you want to have questions now, I think that's fine. But again, we can't really deliberate until after public testimony on each proposal. So we can have questions, but I just wanted to make sure before we get into debate on each one that we finish the testimony as well. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Clarifying questions. Okay. So the next one is on 10-104-11 minutes. And it says, the South Maui CPAC shall keep written minutes and may provide for the audio recording or transcription of meetings. So I added the audio or video recording or transcription of meetings. Some people may prefer to watch the video. And scroll. Way down to 10-104-20 attendance. It says, no member shall be absent from the service of the South Maui CPAC unless the member is sick or otherwise unable to attend. If a member will be absent, the member shall inform the chairperson or the planning director's secretary before the meeting. And my proposed addition is, the department will make accommodations for remote participation for a committee member prevented by sickness or injury from participating in person. Any clarifying questions? I think it's valuable to have clarifying question before. Yes.
What is the reasoning
Can you use the mic, please?
for that language? What is the chair's reasoning for this language change?
My reasoning is that we don't want to have to be pulling in It would be very difficult for a new member to join. It's if someone becomes ill or injured and can't continue their role in the committee, I'd like to try and find a way for them to continue remotely rather than having to come if they're not unable to come. So I really want to make it possible for our members to continue through to the end, even if something bad happens to them.
My concern is that we have a minimal amount of excused absences. If a person doesn't come to 2 meetings, then he or she is out. It gives me the intention that that person doesn't care too much about serving on this committee, so that he or she should disqualify herself.
So as was recommended, I think we should save the discussion until after the testimony. We can have a full discussion, but that was my reasoning anyway. That's why I proposed it. Another clarifying question? Not working.
Oh, not connected. That's why not working. Okay. So I apologize if I'm learning clarifying questions. So is this the time to say to add, like, I know sickness or injury, but if there's another good enough reason other than those two, is that where we add it now? We wait.
I think we'll wait until after
Okay.
testimony when we
Yeah,
have a full
just learning.
discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Then the final one is a bigger one. This is actually an addition of a paragraph, so it becomes 10-104-21, monitoring the plan through final adoption. And it says, Maui County Code Section 2.80b.080.f specifies that the CPAC members are still constituted as a body until final adoption of the plan by the County Council. The CPAC chair or representative of the chair will represent the CPAC at the Planning Commission meetings and at the County Council meetings as the document goes through the adoption process. And then there's a reference to paragraph 2.80b.080.f in the County Code to support this. Yes.
Once again, which are we reading? 21, 22?
This is a new paragraph, 10.104-21.
Okay, you're adding a whole new, okay, got
Yeah,
it, thank
yes.
you.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, so with that, I would like to open for testimony from the audience, and then after that, we'll go to deliberation. Is it,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
I would appreciate it if you're going to make any amendments that you would have that handwritten or at least passed out to committee members.
was it provided?
Do you understand that?
Yeah. Everybody should have it in their packet today.
If you are going to make any amendments,
Yeah, it should be in front of you. Yeah. Yeah. Does not. Oh, there's two. There's one that has a yellow, that has a yellow highlighting. Chairs, yeah, is it? Yeah, it says chairs edits. Okay. Yeah.
Hello, Chair. Real quick, just a suggestion, at the start of the meetings, we're given, a bundle of papers, just to make clear which one we're looking at and stuff. I was handwriting notes on the side,
Yep.
and then realized, so thank you. Just a suggestion.
Yes, thank you.
Oh.
I actually hadn't looked through the packet in advance either. I just assumed it would be there. Okay, we have testimony from Councilman
Is this on?
King.
Okay, I just had a couple of comments on the procedures, and one is that it's a good idea to do roll call at the beginning, and then you could, that's a good time to mention whether someone is excused, which would be an illness, injury, or something like that, or whether someone is absent, which would mean that you didn't hear from them, they're just not here. And, because we have a law in our county code that anybody on any board or commission that misses a certain amount of unexcused absences is automatically off the committee. So, you have to know which ones are excused and which ones aren't. And then the other comment I want to make on the, and department will probably have to weigh in on whether or not you can pull somebody in virtually if they're sick or something, because I don't know if they have that capability, but there should be the capability to have the archived meeting available to the person for afterwards, so that they can review the meeting. If they're not here, they can review the meeting afterwards. And I'm not sure what the department has available on that front. I just know that when we were trying to set up a place for these meetings, that we were told there wasn't any place that had the ability to do a hybrid meeting, which means in-person and virtual. So that's something probably Pam will have to advise you on. That's all.
Thank you. Any other testimony from the audience on the rules of order?
And Mr. Chair, just a reminder, you can also ask if there's questions for the testifier from members. That's just there might not be, but that's a good process.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions for the testifier from the members of the committee? Thank you.
Okay.
Would anyone else like to testify on the rules of order? Yes.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, members. David Good here as an individual. I didn't plan on testifying, but I didn't know there was these amendments either. So I had read your rules. I had some Manini comments, but I didn't feel like they were worth talking about. But in reading these, I see that it would have been nice to have seen these prior. I don't know if they were posted. I guess the one I'd like to talk about is the last one, monitoring the plan through final adoption. I hope you have some robust discussion on this. Basically, it's asking the chair or a representative of the chair, I'm not sure how that's determined, to monitor this process. It could be 2 years, right, by the time it gets adopted. And that the chair will represent the CPAC at planning commission meetings and the council meetings. That also might be at the discretion of the planning commission and the council. So I'm not sure how the rule is written, has the authority to do that. It seems like an awful lot of responsibility for a chair, because generally in my watching this types of proceedings over the years, members of the CPAC will testify at planning commissions and at council, and they'll say, I was a member of the CPAC, and here's what I remember we discussed on this particular issue. And they'll ask, are you representing the CPAC? And they'll say, well, no, maybe because we didn't have it detailed, just maybe didn't vote on it. And so it's individual recollections. And so I think it puts a lot of pressure on the chair to not testify as an individual, but needing to testify on behalf of the CPAC, which should be in your document. The document should speak for itself. So I think you guys ought to walk through this very carefully and see how that would resolve itself. But as a rule to your procedure, to insert themselves in other committees seems a bit awkward to me. That's it.
Any questions to the testifier from the committee? Thank you.
Mr. Chair. I got a question.
Yes.
From reading the 10104-21, it seems like you're trying to become a little heavy-handed in representing us, this committee. And I am reluctant to give you that power to be speaking on behalf of this committee. Of course, you may have your reasons why, but if there's a question that comes up and you be given this power, it's a little heavy-handed for me to accept.
Okay, Chair. Chair, I think we can definitely engage in debate on the rules once you're done with testimony,
Yes.
but I think we can finish up the testimony and then certainly start that debate.
Yeah, we'll start the deliberations once the testimony from the audience is complete. Do we have any more testimony from the audience on the rules of order? Okay, I'm calling the testimony closed on this item and opening deliberations on this topic. So I'll just first answer, and I'll pass the word to you, Tova. So,
Mr. Chairman?
I'm just worried that, yes, I'm just worried that we will do a lot of work here on this plan, and then at the end of the day, maybe it won't be what we wanted because it'll get revised or rejected along the way. And since the county code actually specifies that this body remains until the plan is adopted, then it means that we have a responsibility. And maybe we can find a different way. But one way or another, I think we need to keep engaged so that the vision that we come up with and the guidance that we come up with are followed all the way through to the end, all the way through to the council adoption. It'd be a shame to put in this much work over this much time for this hugely, hugely important thing and then fall halfway, in my opinion. Yes.
Well,
Tom.
Mr. Chairman, these are very thoughtful recommendations. I want to thank you for those and for putting the time in. I think they deserve a thoughtful response. And to that end, I move that we postpone this matter until our next meeting, when we will have had a chance to read everything and an opportunity to think about it, and then to come back at our next meeting and make a decision on where we want to go or any changes we want to make. But I think it's a serious proposal. I think it deserves serious consideration. And because of that, I move we propose that we postpone this matter until our next regularly scheduled meeting.
So may I ask Councilor Hopper?
Question, Mr. Chair.
Can I just get a clarification on that? Can I ask Councilor Hopper, is that something that would affect our proceedings if we delay this until next meeting?
Well, you wouldn't have any rules in place. I don't know if you plan to take action on anything. This is generally something that's done at the first meeting. If you have concerns over certain rules, I would maybe think about not passing those and passing the basic rules. And then if you want to go out for public hearing for additional rule changes, you could do that. It's just, you have the right to do that. If you want to defer action, you can technically defer action. But we haven't had a CPAC that didn't have rules for I don't know, 3 meetings. That's a little odd. But you can do that. If you got a motion on the floor and there's a second and you want to defer action to the next meeting on the rules, you can do that. You could also adopt the rules you're comfortable with, and if you're not comfortable with others, table those and consider sending those out for public hearing again and adding them. I would also note there are some things that you can do without them being in your procedural rules. For example, if you wanted to authorize the chair or another person to represent you in a meeting, you could do that, post an agenda item that says considering that, and then just take a vote at that meeting. You don't necessarily have to have something like that in your actual procedural rules. So those are my thoughts. Again, legally, yes, you can postpone this to the next meeting if you like, but it would be a little awkward to go to your third meeting without having procedural rules in place. So if you're okay with the basic framework, I would recommend seeing if that's something that you'd be okay with passing, because that adopts Robert's Rules of Order and some other procedural matters that I think would assist you in doing your work. So I'd say that's my opinion.
So I think I skipped you, Tova. You had asked for the word a little while ago.
That you answered part of what I was wondering, providing more clarification on your thought process. And I guess the second part is, it sounds like you are putting your hand up for being available on an ongoing basis to perform that function. Is that, you're good with that? I mean, you proposed it, so I'm assuming you are, but.
Yes, it says CPAC chair or a representative, so I'm hoping that many of you will help carry this forward.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order.
Yep.
I believe I made a motion. I don't know if it died for lack of a second, but we've gotten to a good discussion on it. But did you want to move procedurally to allow at least a second so it could be discussed, or what is your preference, Mr. Chairman?
I want to get clarification on how that would impact our work here. But yes, so there is a motion on the floor to postpone the decision on rules of order until the next meeting. Is there a second for that proposal?
Question. Michael Hopper. I think this is precedent setting. Has there ever been any CPAC changes to 10-104-21? Have you ever had it in the history of all CPACs changes in the administrative rules? Is there one existing? Can you show it to me?
I mean, is there a second on the, let's just check if there's a second on the motion. I think that's a fine question, but I mean.
I second the motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Well then, at that point, for this, in my experience, I don't know of a procedural rule in the past that said the chair, after the CPAC's made its recommendation, can represent the CPAC. That you can do that as a rule. You can put it in your procedural rules if you want. It doesn't have to be there, and you don't have to. You certainly do not have to make that motion. You certainly do not have to put them in your procedural rules. And I don't know of a case of that happening, but I've only advised, I think, 3 different CPACs before. So I don't think they had theirs, but yeah. So that's my experience.
Yes.
Just so I can understand the process better. And so I wanted to know, so in regards to these changes that you're recommending, just so I can understand as the chair and maybe the authority that you have. So you're making these recommendations, and though we as a committee, and I can speak for myself as an individual on the committee, was not privy prior to the meeting, or was it available where we could have read this in advance, so we wouldn't have to take this much time to have these discussions or make side notes, just so I know the process, so we don't waste anybody's time, and then maybe my questions could be more, I guess, defined better. So does that make sense, that question, as the chair?
Yes, I responded to the proposal as soon as I could, which was yesterday.
Sorry, can you say that again? I can't hear you.
I responded to the proposal as soon as I could, which was yesterday. I mean, I waited until I got the final proposal and then looked it over and provided some additions. So yes, as soon as possible, but I mean, I can't really do it until I get the draft.
And so with that said, though, so once you get it and make your recommendations, you're making it to present to us for approval, or you're making it on behalf of the committee, meaning that we then can have input, or is that something that we're going to look to you to be that person? Just so I can understand maybe what Wayne said, and with the utmost respect, I'm just trying to understand the process.
So I'm not quite sure if do you mean this particular proposal, or do you, I mean the rules of order, or do you mean the actual this paragraph about monitoring the implementation?
Not so much the rules of order, because they seem to be pretty standard, but in regards to making changes, as the chair, that you will be able to make recommendations, and then we, as the committee, would then read them at the same time as the public. And I know you just got them, so maybe can you get them earlier so you can share it with us? I don't know if the other committees feel the same. I just don't think this is enough time for us to read it, even though it's small.
Yeah, Pam wants to make a comment, but in just a second, the process is that everything has to go through the planning department. So I submit my proposals to the planning department. Planning department distributes them to all of you. So I don't distribute anything. I don't send anything to you guys directly. Nothing at all. That's just the process.
And that's good. That's very good to know, because that's where I'm getting. I'm not trying to pick on you, so I understand the process. So you wouldn't be able to in the future to even communicate with us unless you give it to the planning department, and then they do what they do, and then they present it to us as the committee. It's slightly different than committees that I've served on with, chairs and so forth. So now I understand. So thank you.
That's my understanding, but maybe Pam can make that more clear.
Thanks, Rob. Just two comments I had, and that is that the administrative rules that you all have, the original copy you received when you received your binders. So everybody had those when they received their binders. Any changes that were made, if you hold them next to each other, Mike and I were talking, and it was just formatting. There was no substantive changes, and Lehua, you're right, they are very general, very standard. I just wanted Rob to state he's absolutely right because of Sunshine Law. If anybody typically has changes they want to make, and you're going to go through this as you're reviewing policies and actions, you would send that to the planning department, and they would then distribute it to everybody on CPAC and post it on the website. I'm not clear. I think only yesterday or maybe today we received your comments, Robs, and that's just what I wanted to clarify is when we actually received your comments. But I know once we did, we then sent them out to you folks.
Chair.
You received them yesterday.
I would just like to take a moment to add a few comments to what Lehu was saying. I totally get where she's coming from. I understand some of these changes some people might want to think about a little longer, because I know that any changes to any of these, yes, we have had time, as Pam said, to review the general rules, but any changes, I think that's what she's saying is that, we want just a little bit of a moment to kind of think about it. Some of them might be, less significant than others, but there might be a few that that we need to understand a little clearer and take a little bit moment to think about. If that's what she was saying, that's how I feel as well. So thank you.
Yes, Everett.
Rob, I share Wayne's concern on 21. I think it's 21. Yes, 21. And I also, regarding the agenda, I feel as members we should all get the agenda from the planning department. I don't think that's something that the chairs should be able to change. I think we should receive it at the same time from the planning department. Thank you.
Oh, Daniel.
Daniel Connelly here. Daniel. This is what's on the agenda today. So as Mr. Hopper said, that in order for us to move forward, we're going to have to act on this. Listening to the chair and his proposed edits, I think most of them are non-substantive, except for maybe the last 2 pages. Those are the ones that seem to be bringing up red flags. But the others are really non-substantive. So I'm thinking, is there a way that we could adopt the non-substantive amendments and defer the ones that maybe most of the committee would like to think about, and then revisit those amendments at our next committee meeting so that we can move forward?
I would ask you to make a motion so we have something to discuss.
I believe there is a motion on the floor right now. We have to, yeah, there is a motion.
There's a motion on the floor, yes. Okay. Well, we have to close that one first. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would be willing to accept a friendly amendment if an amendment were proposed along those lines. And if it were then approved, we could go forward on the main motion.
Thank you.
Chair?
Yes.
I just think the one issue is that the motion was to defer action to the next meeting. If you're going to change that to taking action on on some or all of the amendments, I think you may need to table the motion that you have right now. Although technically Robert's Rules of Order haven't been adopted as your procedural rules yet, so this is sort of subject to the chair's discretion. But I think you may want to table the motion that you have now. Someone else Mr. Kanahele or other appropriate member make a motion to adopt whatever they want, and that would include or not include certain of the chair's amendments, get a second, and then you could debate that. That's a suggested way forward. I would note, because these are administrative rules, before adopting any changes to the rules after they're adopted, you need to have a 30-day notice in the newspaper, and there has to be a public hearing that goes out for those changes. So that's something I would just note. I think you could discuss them at your next meeting, but before they get adopted, you need to send them out for another public hearing to amend what you would have already adopted. So there's that additional requirement for admin rule changes. These rules that you have today have gone out for a 30-day notice, but I think if you adopt some of them and don't adopt others, if you want to amend the rules you've adopted, you've got to go out for another 30-day notice, which you can do. Like I also said, though, there are probably some things in here that you could do without having them in your admin rules. You may just be able to take action on them, such as having the chair represent you at other meetings or things like that. So for now, I think that if you actually want to move forward with adopting the rules with some of the changes, none of them, you could have somebody move to table the current motion, and then if that passes, have another member make a motion to do something else, essentially, if you like.
Yes, Tom?
May I make the motion to table, or does that have to be somebody else?
I think you could. Yeah. I could
Give it a try, Tom.
Then, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I think we're getting to a good point here. So I would move to table this motion that I had made, and that will require a second. It's not debatable.
Second?
Okay, seconded by Brian. Thank you. Okay. So we need to vote on tabling the motion? Okay. All in favor of tabling the motion by Tom, please raise your hand.
Discussion.
Yes? Yes?
Hey, Pat, you guys just got through the West Maui CPAC.
It's not on.
Mr. Chairman.
You guys just completed the West Maui CPAC committee. Is there language in this administrative rules that mimic at all?
No, as Mike Hopper said, we have not had amendments like this before. With regard to the last paragraph, what did happen is several members of the CPAC were very good about attending Maui Planning Commission meetings and Maui County Council meetings of their own volition and represented themselves as individual CPAC members. And it was helpful for them to do that because the West Maui CPAC had a diverse array of opinions and represented those different opinions on the CPAC. So there was a number of CPAC members that would go to the Planning Commission meetings and the County Council meetings, and they did that, and there was nothing written in the administrative rules. They were able to do that, as 2.80B says. They're formed until the plan is actually formally adopted by the council.
So do I need to ask, is anyone against tabling the motion? Please raise your hand.
Are you
Thank you.
taking discussion? Nothing against you, Rob. So take it personally. I think it's a little heavy-handed when I see the language added in tonight. And as one of the members in this subcommittee, I take it really personally that we're giving you as chairman the ability to represent all of us that may have diverse feelings about any question that may come up in front of the rulemaking body.
Okay, point of order. Yes. We adopted the motion.
Sorry, can you please use the mic? We can't hear you.
Did we, Mr. Chairman, did we have a motion, do you have a vote on the motion to table?
Yeah, we did adopt the motion to table, yes.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Everett.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the chair's edits with two exceptions. That we do not include the proposed revision to 104-10, and we do not include the proposed revision to 104-21.
Second for discussion.
Rob, can I talk?
I'm getting lost here. Yeah, yes.
The other part about enabling members to participate virtually, testimony is kind of a different thing. We can probably work that out, but a fully hybrid meeting is going to be very challenging, and it may make it so that you guys cannot get, so that we have to stop and start meetings. If we could take out the part about enabling and maybe add, we'll try their best instead of enabling.
So I think someone would need to make a motion for that. So we have a motion already. We have a motion already. So we need a second for Everett's motion. So Everett's motion was to adopt the rules of order with my amendments, with the exception of -10 and 20-21. Okay.
And Wayne had made the second, but he wanted discussion.
Wayne seconded Everett's motion? Okay. Okay, so motion has been seconded. Okay. So opening discussion on adopting the proposed rules of order, except for the proposed changes to 1010 and 1021. I'm sorry, -10 and -21. Okay, and one, but that's not a motion. Someone needs to make that motion. If we want to make another
Chair,
change.
can I ask a question? And I'm sorry.
Yes.
But we don't have to finish the first motion because it was about the table, because we're in
That was
discussion.
finished. That discussion is finished. The decision was made.
Oh, it was, okay, I didn't hear that it was approved and passed and
Yes.
so forth, so I apologize.
Yeah.
Some of us are kind of
Everyone
confused
voted
here.
for and no one voted against, so it's adopted. So does someone want to make a motion on removing the part about enabling participation by people who are members who are prevented by disability
Yeah,
or
I can make a
sickness?
motion on that.
Yes. You make a motion on that?
Yeah.
To remove the enabling part?
Yes.
Let's see what that means. Let's see. I'm sorry, where is that exactly?
It's 10-104-20.
It's 20.
Cody, can you state your whole motion, which would be I make a motion to remove the chair's language from 10-104-20?
Oh, Mr. Chair?
But, I don't,
Yeah, I make a motion to remove the language from 10-104-20.
And can you ask Everett to have that as a friendly amendment?
No, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Sorry.
Thank you. So the motion is to remove the entire addition to 104-20?
That enable, that section that talks about enabling, instead and put try their best. Yeah, best efforts or.
Okay,
For the video.
I must not have the same version because my version doesn't say enable. It says department will make accommodations for remote participation for a committee member prevented by sickness or injury from participating in person.
We'll use best efforts instead of make accommodations.
Will make best efforts. Okay, so the motion is the department will make best efforts for remote participation for a committee member prevented by sickness or injury from participating in person. And that's seconded by Everett. Okay. Discussion on that proposal as separate from the other discussions we've had today. We need to kind of finish off one motion before we go to the next one.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I think to clarify the intent, you had a motion to adopt except for 2 exceptions. I think the most recent motion was a motion to amend that motion to also add another thing that they did not want to adopt. And so you're looking at the motion to amend the main motion. If that passes, the main motion will be amended to be adopting all of the rules with the 3 exceptions that are listed. So I think right now you're on a motion to amend the main motion. I think that was the intent.
I'd like to ask those who made the first motion to accept this as a friendly amendment so we can deal with it at once.
Okay.
That's good. Okay. Okay, so we have a single motion to adopt, which is the rules with additions, but with the following changes: that in 10104-20, where it says we'll make accommodations, we'll say make best efforts, and then dropping the addition to dropping the new paragraph 10.104-21 and dropping the addition to 10.104-10. And that has been seconded. Friendly motion. Any comments? Oh, Tova?
Yeah, since we're changing things, I was wondering, Everett, whether you would feel more comfortable with the second to last agenda-related addition amending to say the chair and the committee approves the agenda. Was the crux of what wasn't feeling comfortable specific to the chair's approval of the agenda without the committee?
I think it's 104.10, I believe it is. 104.10. My concern is that the department, they're the experienced experts on the community plans, and they put together the agenda. So I think we should just go with with their agenda, as opposed to voting on their agenda, because that would slow us down. So if we.
So the reason I propose this is because this is our time. This is the time of the CPAC, and I really think it's important that we use this time fully, because we have 6 months, which might sound like a lot. There's actually an awful lot to cover, and I want to be sure that the agenda is our agenda. This is not the planning department. The planning department has defined the agenda up to this point, and that's good, and we have tremendous support from the planning department. We can't do it without their continued support. However, we need to define the agenda for the 6 months. It's just, I think that's the whole idea with our role in this. If we don't have that role, even to define the agenda, what is our role?
I appreciate your efforts, Rob. I just want to ask a question. That's it, because I'm out of here on Friday. Think about this. Just think about the logistics. I heard you guys mention in the beginning, which is totally justified, about needing to have materials ahead of time so you can read them and study them and come to the meeting prepared. That makes total sense. You all agreed to have weekly CPAC meetings. So I'm just asking to think about the logistics of when a schedule or an agenda is put out. And I know what it was like trying to get people to agree and find a date for your first meeting. Gun to head. It's difficult. And so just think about the logistics, because how can we, within a week's time, prepare an agenda, have a chair and a CPAC, the entire CPAC approve, and then get back, then print out, then get back to you, and then get to the public? All I'm saying is just think about the logistics of that. That's it.
Yes.
So I appreciate all that, and I think that's a really good point of the timing and making sure that we have ample time, which is why I personally think being able to add an agenda item that we're not going to potentially be prepared for could actually put us into a bit of a tailspin. Following the agenda that has been provided to us, at least we know what's coming up. We can take time. We can read ahead a couple of weeks if we need to. But as chair, if you throw something in last minute, we're going to kind of be in this situation again where we might be looking at each other going, well, what are we talking about and why are we talking about it?
So the proposal is not to add things after the fact. The proposal is that there's one agenda. It's just that before the single one agenda gets sent out, that it's reviewed and approved. So it corresponds to the things that we want to do. That's basically it. So no last minute, the same time scale. And as a matter of fact, I've already kind of discussed the procedure with Karen where we would meet on Monday and we could discuss like for the following week, the agenda, or the week after that. So the agenda will be delivered in the same order it's delivered anyway. It's just it'll go on through a level of review.
I was just going to state, and I'd really like for staff to speak up because you guys are going to be handling this, but you can also add meetings too. We did that with the previous CPAC when we felt like things needed to be covered, but we wanted everybody to have adequate time to research. You can add meetings with proper public notice. Just putting that out there.
We can have an agenda ready. It has to be, we can have it ready on Tuesday. That's a proposed agenda. And then if anything carries over to the next agenda, we have to add that, and it has to be out by Thursday afternoon. It has to be stamped and posted by Thursday afternoon. So to have we could have you guys look at the general agenda, say, yeah, this is good, but it is going to be very difficult to have an approved agenda and have weekly meetings. If we want to have bi-weekly 6-hour meetings, that might be doable.
So,
Mr. Chairman.
Tova, you did not make a motion. I think you put that forward for discussion, right?
Discussion.
Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Daniel.
We may be in a discussion about a solution searching for a problem. We have not had any challenges, difficulties, or we're not diverging from the planning department at this point in time. In any relationship between organizations, there will always be different points of view, and those can be worked out. But I think anticipating there's going to be a problem, you can begin to see a problem. So I would suggest that we take a look at this as a partnership that may not always be in agreement, but nonetheless, that we not begin to put into our procedures structural things that could turn out to be impediments that we did not intend. Thank you, sir.
So, was Daniel requesting the word too?
Thank you, Chair. I'm really having a hard time following this because there's motions and friendly motions, and I feel like we're jumping all around the place. And I'm feeling a little bit concerned because I'm having a hard time following this process right now. And I'm just hoping someone's keeping track. I know Rob has a big job, and being the chair, but I really hope someone's keeping track of what motions are being made and what friendly amendments are being made, and if a vote was taken, if there was seconded, and their votes have been taken. Another issue I'm having is I'm having a hard time hearing because of the quality of the sound. Maybe some of you, when you speak, can speak right into the mic so we can hear you, because some of you have very soft voices, and I'm really having a hard time hearing what you're saying. I hope you can hear what I'm saying. I know Wayne doesn't have that problem. But some of you speak very softly, so if you could, bring the mic right up close to your mouth so that we can hear what you're saying, because I'm missing some of the discussion, and that's why I'm having a hard time following it. I almost think maybe we just should take one thing at a time, just one amendment at a time and just go down approve, not approve, approve, not approve, approve, not approve, instead of trying to do the whole gooey mess at once. It's like a little bit gooey for me right now. It's just a comment. Thank you.
I do have a quick question. So in regards to Daniel asking who he hopes somebody's taking minutes or notes, but so whom is that person that is taking it? So everybody. So who does it? So Rob does it? Oh,
No,
thought
I was
you
just
pointed
trying to
him.
answer.
Okay.
So two things happen. First of all of the planning staff have what are called motion and vote record. And they're formatted so that every time language comes out of any of your mouths with regard to a motion, we record that motion. Whether it's a first, a second, a first and a second, a combination of the first and the second, and then approve the third. I mean, we have all that here, including your names and how you vote. Then the next thing that'll happen is that the Akaku recording is sent to us within 2 to 3 days, and we have a separate staff person who listens to the entire meeting and takes minutes. So you're covered.
No, so
But I really like Daniel's suggestions about speaking into the mic and slowly so that we can hear you and understand you.
Okay, thank you. So I think that needed to be asked because there's many of us that are new to this that were not aware of it. So thank you. So now that at least makes us feel at ease that we have the support because I myself was wondering too. So thank you very much.
Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Lehua, for that. That helped clarify some things for myself as well. I think we can all agree that the decisions that we make or help make, we're all passionate about. They're all really, 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 really important. And if we feel rushed in any way, then we're not going to be able to make the best decisions. So if there are ways that we can obviously streamline things, we got 6 months. I understand that. I read that full and clear. But I don't want to personally feel rushed in anything that may be a significant, set of know that I may need to provide or someone else may concur. So again, we can discuss. Hopefully, we can come up with ways to either gather info ahead or, like Daniel suggested, maybe we take it so because people were still talking and there was motions in seconds and we were like, okay, are you guys voting or like what is going on here? So efficiency, yeah, get the most done out of the least. So that's my thoughts. Hopefully some of you guys can understand what I'm trying to say. Mahalo.
Would you guys like me to read the motion that's currently on the floor? The motion is to approve the chair's amendments except for 10-104-10 and 10-104-21. That motion was made by Everett and seconded by Wayne Nishiki, with the friendly amendment added by Cody that for 10-104-20, we will make the best efforts. Which was the friendly Everett amendment was approved by Everett.
Is the motion understood?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion?
Roll call.
No? Okay. So I will put this to roll call. So we have a motion to adopt the proposed rules with additions, with those three changes that Karen read out to us. So with roll call, I actually call each person's name? Okay. May not be in the order you're sitting, I'm not sure, but...
Wait, Chair,
Yes.
if it's not a remote meeting, you can take a roll call if you like, but I don't think you're required to take a roll call. I think we do. If you request it, I suppose, but
Okay.
if you want the roll call, you can have a roll call, yes.
Okay, so roll call was requested, so I'm going to call each name and say yay or nay. Tom. Yes. Tova. Yay. Everett. Lehua. Yes. Vernon. Yes. Daniel. Mike. Yes. Cody. Yes. Wayne. Yes. Keoki. I'm sorry, Keoki? Yes. Jennifer. Yes. Brian. Yes. And myself, Rob, yes. Okay, motion adopted as proposed. Let's see. Do we want to take a very short break before we go into the overview of the community planning process from the planning department? A 10-minute break? Thank you. Okay, adjourn for 10 minutes.
Plan Implementation Division from Kathleen, and Karen will speak about the community plan update process and discuss the draft South Maui Community Plan format and the CPAC roles and responsibilities. Okay, so firstly, what is planning? The mission of the Maui County Planning Department is to manage growth in a sustainable manner that balances our economy, culture, and the environment. The question here is, how do we do that? So, the role of planning is to manage change, make trade-offs, and balance interests, create connections, and provide a framework for change. Managing change. Our communities face many kinds of change. For example, population, demographic, socioeconomic change. People are moving here, people are moving away, the job environment is ever evolving, our population is aging. So with this changing population comes evolving community needs, concerns, and values. How do we provide the diversity of homes needed to accommodate all living situations? And what land use and transportation changes do we need to make to accommodate our housing needs? How do we promote a competitive job environment that sustains our communities and gives the younger generation opportunities to succeed? Climate change. How do we manage the mitigation and adaptation strategies we will need to ensure resilience for our communities at large over the coming years? Making trade-offs. Planning is also asking the hard questions, making trade-offs and balancing seemingly competing interests, like housing choices. Is there a desire to own our home with large yard and multiple cars? But is this realistic in Maui with our finite land area? Are we willing to shift the paradigm and live in more dense urban environments? If so, how do we make these denser living environments more desirable and enjoyable? How about funding? We all want, for instance, nicely paved streets, beautiful parks and open spaces, and adequate water service in our communities. But how do we adequately fund these facilities and services? Are we able to guide growth in a way that benefits everyone? Seeing connections, synergies, and systems. Planning is also about this. It's about seeing the connection between our economy, the design of our physical spaces, the environment, and our well-being, and making sure decisions we make are fair and equal. Do we have convenient and well-designed opportunities to walk, bike, and play that will help enhance our daily well-being? Do we have the opportunity to live close to work, school, and shopping, and spend less time in our cars, helping mitigate environmental pollution and congestion? Long-term planning is about taking a step back and looking at things from a broad view and understanding how pieces of the community may fit together like pieces of a puzzle. And finally, a framework for the future. Planning is most successful when it is inclusive and reflects the comprehensive values of the entire community. And that's why we are all here today. Our greatest challenge is imagining how our communities should grow and change, not just now, but over the next 20 years. Planning is setting a vision and course of action for the future while remaining flexible and adaptable to unforeseen challenges. Planning helps create communities of lasting value. Just a few more images for you to absorb, and I'll now pass the microphone on to my colleague Brendan, who will present on Maui County's general plan.
Thank you, Caroline. Brendan Conboy here, Senior Planner with the Long Range Department. That was a great overview of planning and what it can be and all it promises. What I'm going to go over now is how that gets translated into action. And the way that we do that, and why you're all here, is the community plan update to South Maui. You might not be aware that there's multiple plans, so kind of the framework that this works, the hierarchy that all these plans work together, it is established in the Maui County Code under Chapter 280B, as we were discussing earlier. And that establishes the framework of the general plan and the process for updating it or amendments. If you haven't had a chance yet to look at the text of 280B, I would suggest that you look at it now to kind of understand, not now, at some point, to understand better kind of what your role is. I will read some excerpts of that shortly, but moving on from that, we have the county-wide policy plan. Beneath that is, the countywide policy plan was adopted in 2010. It contains overarching values statements, an umbrella policy document, and provides direction for the Maui Island Plan and the 9 community plans. So directly beneath the countywide policy plan is the Maui Island Plan, which is specific to Maui, as opposed to the neighboring islands as well. And the Maui Island Plan, adopted in 2012, provides direction for future growth, the economy, and social and environmental decisions on the island through 2030. The Maui Island Plan establishes a vision founded on core values that break down into goals, objectives, policies, and actions. In addition, the plan incorporates lessons from the past. The Maui Island Plan is the second component of the decennial general plan update. So beneath the Maui Island Plan, we have, as I stated before, the 9 sub-area community plans. Just wanted to go over some of the requirements of each community plan. So what you will be tasked with completing here as a member of CPAC. So as it's stated in MCC 280B, each community plan shall contain 1, a statement of the major problems and opportunities concerning the needs and development of the community plan area. 2, a statement of the social, economic, and environmental effects of such development. 3, the desired sequence, patterns, and characteristics of future development. 4, a description of the community plan area. 5, a statement of planning standards and principles relating to land uses within the community plan area. 6, a statement of urban and/or rural design principles and objectives for the community plan area. 7, for community plan areas on the island of Maui, urban and rural growth boundaries, and a map delineating urban and rural growth areas consistent with the general plan. 8, for community plan areas on the island of Maui, a designation of specific land uses within the urban and rural growth areas. 9, a list of areas, sites, and structures recognized as having historical or archaeological significance and a list of scenic sites and resources. 10, a description of the projected multimodal transportation system showing existing and proposed roadways, transit corridors, bikeways, and major thoroughfares. 11, statements of intention relating to the location or improvement of all public service and transportation facilities. 12, statements setting forth A, problems relating to land uses, and B, projections relating to social, economic, and environmental effects of proposed development. 13, a statement of desired population density, including visitors and residents. 14, specific land use designations based on property lines to the extent practicable. 15, a list of streetscape and landscaping principles and desired streetscape and landscaping improvements. And lastly, 16, an action element. The action element shall identify specific programs, projects, and regulations that need to be developed over the 20-year planning period to implement the community plan. Further, identification of specific programs, projects, and regulations that need to be accomplished during the first 10 years of that planning period shall be separately identified. This element shall include a prioritized general schedule and identify each implementing agency or person. That was a lot of text to just throw at you right there, but essentially that's what you are all tasked with doing here. That is what each plan shall include. So if you want to review that, that would be helpful, I think, to each of you as you consider kind of each item that you'll be discussing with each passing meeting. Next slide, please. Sorry, the zoning section. Just hit back. Okay, so that was kind of the framework of the plans, kind of in a hierarchical fashion. At the bottom of kind of that pyramid of land use regulation is the Maui County Code and zoning, so the actual zoning within each area. So how does zoning fit in? This is what is often misunderstood in the community. The 3 primary county mechanisms to control land use and development are on a spectrum from broad to specific, as we said. So we start at the top with the Maui Island Plan, and then the community plans have land use designation maps, which provide a little more specificity with the intent of guiding the type of character of future growth. Finally, the Maui County Code with the zoning districts provides more detail to regulate the intensity of land use and the dimensions and location of development on a parcel of land. Zoning is one of the tools to implement the community plans, and county land use layers work together to plan for future growth and regulate land use and development. With that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Kathleen, who's with the Plans Implementation Division, and she will give you, oh, she can't sit anymore. Here you go.
Hello, everybody. Some of you don't know me. My name is Kathleen Aoki. I've been with the Planning Department for about 20 years. I've served in all different kinds of positions, but now I am Division Chief of the Plan Implementation Division, which was created in 2014. I have a very small staff. I have one GIS analyst and 2 senior planners. Next slide. So, when PID was created, it was created for the purpose of really focusing on implementing the plans. So we have a dedicated focus on all of the documents that were just described to you with the countywide policy plan, the Maui Island plan, and the 9 community plans. We prepare required reports that either come out of the charter or the Maui County Code. And this includes the annual general plan implementation report, which we're updating right now. We review development projects. We review the CIP budget from the mayor. We do various types of GIS projects, specifically a lot of zoning maps, which I'll get into. We do some cultural review and support, and we do special projects, which I'll get into that as well. So what is your role when it comes to action? So that's what I'm here to talk to you about tonight, is the action part of the plan. So I'm not going to go through all that. You can kind of see why you're here. You should know why you're here. You went through a very great process to get into this committee. So what I'd like to call out to you, though, is bullet point number 3. So this comes straight out of Maui County Code. You are to review and make recommendations for the goals, objectives, policies, and actions in the draft plan. Plans shall be based on sound policy and information. So just keep that in the back of your mind throughout this 6-month process, because there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to want to put in there. There's going to be a lot of discussion about it. And at the end of the day, think, can we do this? Is this plausible? Implementing actions include identifying priorities, timelines, estimated costs, and the lead agencies. So all of that has to be included in your action part of the plan. Next slide. So as Brandon just went over, this is your hierarchy of all of the general plan documents. What I've noted for you on the bottom is how many implementing action items are contained in each one of these. So you have 82 actions in the countywide policy plan, which are very broad. You have the Maui Island plan where there's 305. And with the combined 9 community plans right now, you have 874. So there's 1,261 implementing actions. Yes, there are. So, can these all be implemented? Who implements them? And why don't we implement them all? And that's my desk covered with the plans. Okay, next slide. So one of the ways to kind of implement them, or at least monitor them, as I stated, is that we do a report every year monitoring the status of 1,261 actions. And then I'm kind of going opposite here on the top part of the slide. The county charter states that the planning department must review the mayor's proposed CIP budget. Mayor's CIP proposed budget may not necessarily what gets adopted in the end, right? But we have to review what the mayor proposes. So I go through, and sometimes there can be 80 capital improvement projects, or there can be 210. And I have to go through them all and see how they align with all of these actions. And I can pretty much guarantee you that every single thing that gets proposed has an action that supports it, because there's 1,261 of them. Next slide. Another way that we implement what's in the plans is all 3 divisions, plan implementation, long range, and the zoning division. We all get to review the larger development projects. So those are just kind of samples of projects that have come in. They all get sent out to each division, and we provide our comments to the planner who's in charge of the particular project. And they combine all of our comments together, and that's what developers will see when we provide our response, or any questions or concerns, or please address this part of a plan. You are great, thank you for addressing this part of a plan. That does happen. So that's another way that we implement actions. Wayne might like this one. So shoreline setback rules. This is, again, another way as far as programming to implement the plans. And in this particular slide, if you look at the bottom, I actually called out a Maui Island Plan action that specifically says, periodically update the shoreline rules to enable the Maui Planning Commission to provide safe setbacks from the shorelines and incorporate best management practices. So that is exactly what the department is currently doing. They're having public meetings right now for it, and they are making proposals to amend the setback rules to account for sea level rise and some other housekeeping amendments. Another project that PID has worked on, the department worked on this for many, many, many years. When I got into PID, I was told, Kathleen, get these digital maps adopted. So I said, okay. So I focused on that along with our GIS analyst, Peter, and some of the other staff in other divisions. So we had to, this was very painstaking. If you look at the top corner, you'll see what the maps, these are the original 1961 land zoning maps, which I'm sure some of you have come into our department and had to look at these with Post-it notes and handwritten notes. So that is what we digitized. So we had to go through, it took about 15 years. And then all the maps, you can see when they got adopted, we did Maui first. We've already made 2 amendments to the Maui map, and then we got Lanai and Molokai adopted. So again, on the bottom is a action that was in the countywide policy plan that said expand government online services. So by adopting these digital zoning maps, we now have them available online for people to go to. And then a policy that was underneath, part of that action was use advanced technology to improve efficiency. So this just gives you an idea of what it is that we're doing to implement all of these policies and actions. Many of the actions and policies constantly talk about updating our zoning code for all kinds of various reasons. So in 2017, we commissioned Orion Planning and Design to do an audit, and we got the results of that audit. And going on to the next slide, as part of that audit, we were able to, thank you to the council, we were able to get funds to rewrite our zoning code. So that's another project that PID manages, and it will take at least 6 to 7 years to do this. It's in a very intense process. So if you look on the very left, you'll see what the existing code kind of looks like, and on the right and in the middle are just very, very preliminary drafts. So it's going to look very different for one, hopefully to make it easier to read, understand. There'll be a lot of graphics, and we're going to clean up the language, clean up outdated, haberdasheries, those kinds of things are going to go away. Unless you really want them, we can put them back in, but that's our goal, is to get those kinds of things up. So again, at the bottom, Maui Island Plan action examples, right there, amend the zoning code. That's an action item in the Maui Island Plan. Number 6, revise the zoning ordinance to allow for mixed use. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at when we're drafting this new revised code. So there's a lot of stuff on here, but the idea being that there are many ways to implement actions and implement these plans. Those were examples I just gave you. Subdivision approvals, we have to go through those, and they have to be consistent with plans. Capital improvement projects, that's another way to implement them. Changing the zoning, changing the community plan, shoreline area permits, conditional use permits. So a lot of different ways, but on the very top, I'd just like you to note, because a lot of people think that the planning department implements everything, and we don't. When you do your action plan, you're going to assign lead agencies, because there's going to be things, get rid of injection wells. That's not planning, that's Department of Environmental Management. So we do have a lot of actions assigned to us, but we don't have them all, I can tell you that. So leading agencies also implement these actions. It's not just the planning department, but we are charged with monitoring that. And that's it for me. And I'm going to pass it on to Karen for the process.
Okay, hi, my name is Karen Komkowicz. I'm a planner in the Long Range Division. We'll be getting to know each other very well. I'm giving a presentation about the community update process. So the community plan update process is guided, as you've heard, by Maui County Code Section 2.80B. Phase 1 is research. And so we identify current conditions, issues, and opportunities to define major topics of the plan. The resource papers are prepared during this phase, provide a snapshot of South Maui's existing conditions, and highlight future needs, challenges, and potential strategies. On the agenda that you all currently have in your package, these papers are listed as homework for the relevant section of the plan. Phase 2 is the community engagement, including interviews, meetings, workshops, and open houses. I'll get more to that in a second. Phase 3 is the CPAC review. This is where we are right now. The CPAC is given 180 days to listen to the public testimony, review the draft plan, and make recommendations. Then there's Phase 4, where Maui Planning Commission has 180 days to review the plan. And Maui County Council has up to 1 year to review the draft plan, listen to public testimony, and adopt the plan by ordinance. So community engagement takes time and it can be messy, but it is absolutely critical to building a community plan that the community actually supports. Our hope is that doing thorough community engagement will help make the review and approval process with the CPAC, the Maui Planning Commission, and the Maui County Council timely and efficient. The format of the draft plan is quite different than the 1998 Kihei-McKenna Community Plan. The draft plan update places a greater emphasis on the interconnectedness of the natural and human-made systems and structures and services that make South Maui a community. The draft plan is structured into 4 main sections. Section 1 is the plan framework. It provides a history of the plan and how to amend the plan and how to write the plan, and then it has the vision statement and the goals. This is what you will be going over tonight. Section 2 is the policy framework. This includes the 5 goals, and with the 5 goals, the policies. We will start on November 9th. And then we have section 3, the growth framework. The growth framework includes the maps and a explanation of what kind of change is expected in South Maui. Section 4 is the implementation and monitoring. This is where the actions live. We will be going through the actions along with the policies that relate to the actions, but the assigning of a priority we will do at the end when we have done all of the actions. This is an important question. Is it a policy or is it an action? Policies guide plans for development. So this is section 2. Actions tell the county where to spend time and money. So the CPAC role and responsibilities. Attend meetings and comply with the Sunshine Law and rules. Do your homework. Review the draft plan and supporting materials. Provide recommendations for the draft plan. Listen to public testimony and provide local knowledge and represent the community. So now we're on to section 2, the plan framework. Oh, sorry, section 1. This is what you're tasked with tonight. I tried to skip ahead. The plan framework provides a helpful background information, including the purpose and authority of the South Maui Community Plan, a summary of the update process, and a guide on how to use the plan and how to change the plan. The plan framework also includes a history section, information on existing conditions and population growth, and the South Maui vision developed by the community during the community engagement process. Tonight, focus your attention on the key challenges on page 24 to 29. These challenges include: how will South Maui's population grow? How will South Maui ensure adequate services? How will South Maui provide more affordable housing options, manage traffic, build a complete and connected community? How will climate change affect South Maui's future? And how will South Maui malama its wahikupuna? And then the draft South Maui vision statement. This vision statement was created with extensive community engagement. We had 2 different rounds to get ideas on what should go in the vision statement, and then there was a second round of community engagement to have people say which they liked the best. So South Maui's beaches, coastal waters, and wetlands are restored and thriving, with affordable housing close to good jobs and a variety of transportation options, including safe walking and biking paths lined with trees. The region's businesses, parks, and neighborhoods are protected and celebrated, enhancing South Maui's sense of place. Goals will be reviewed more thoroughly at a future meeting. These are the goals: a complete and balanced connected transportation network, safe, healthy, livable communities for all, ready and resilient systems, Mauka to Makai watershed management, and responsible stewardship of the wahikupuna and historic properties. Mahalo for your time. Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions from the committee? Tom?
Question. Somebody told me that the 3.2 sea level rise figure is out of date. Is that correct?
We typically use the SLREXA, or the sea level rise exposure area, which is it's not just 3.2, it's the state established sea level rise. And yes, that is correct, that 3.2 they are expecting a greater sea level rise. To 8 feet.
So other questions from the committee? Thank you. I'm sorry, was that the last speaker from the department? Oh, I see, okay. Okay, so we're starting on the presentation on the context, the history next time? Or is that coming up today?
Chair.
Yes?
We were going to take a dinner break at 7 o'clock.
Yes, I just wanted to find out what,
Yeah, okay.
if we're done or if there's more to do today.
We do not have a presentation on the history. That is the section that it was intended that you guys would read ahead of time and see if there was any changes that you would like to propose.
But was the intention to discuss that today or discuss that next time?
That is, the intention is to discuss that today.
Okay.
And then there's a continuation meeting scheduled for November 2nd.
Okay. I do have some comments on that, but we're behind on our dinner here, so let's take can we do it in 20 minutes? Yes. Discussing the history section.
Just the history section.
Yes.
The entire plan framework section 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 are able to be discussed tonight. Is my volume too loud?
Okay, with a 20-minute break for dinner and then resuming? Okay. So first of all, I'd like to open up for testimony if there's anyone in the audience who would like to testify on the presentations we just had about the plan framework. Yeah, okay. One thing I should have asked in the housekeeping at the beginning, but I'm going to ask you that now because I think sooner or later it's going to become a question. If we feel that we need to continue beyond 8:30, are people prepared to do that? Or is 8:30 a very hard stop for everybody? I'm not talking about today, I'm just talking about in general, if that's something that people could accommodate if we needed to spend more time. Any ideas on there, suggestions, comments? Tova?
Could we take that case by case?
Oh, case by case, of course.
Well, I mean, like, if it's that night and it looks like we're going to run over, then kind of make the call rather than blanket deciding, because...
Yeah, no, I just wondered if people in general are saying absolutely no way I'm going to stay beyond 8:30, or if...
Excuse me, Chair, there's 3 members not seated.
Sorry?
Excuse me, there's 3, now 4 members not seated.
We have a quorum, so we can continue, but they should sit down. Do people feel okay with that? That we don't want to rule out that in some cases we may have to go beyond that? Thank you. Okay. Okay. So to this particular topic, the plan, I was hoping that there would be a presentation and discussion around the historical and the frameworking, the framing, because it is an absolutely fantastic document, just amazing. I mean, I just reread the Kihei McKenna Community Plan, and I also reviewed the West Maui Community Plan. And this segment goes way beyond either of those, especially, of course, the 1998 Kihei McKenna Community Plan, but even beyond the West Maui Plan, because it describes the history, where this came from. The 1998 plan mostly looks at South Maui from the perspective of geography, geology, I guess, a little bit, but really from a European perspective, how things looked, starting with colonization in the 19th century, and it talks very little really about the Hawaiian history of the area, whereas this document goes in great detail and gives a great context, and it also raises an important aspect, I think, which is it's not like things just have been getting better and better and better. That's not the case. We've lost things too. And there were things that the Hawaiian community before white people arrived were able to deal with, which we're still struggling with in a big way today. Things like dealing with the watershed and dealing with food supply and many other things which we now are trying to address mostly as a disaster facing us, like the mudslides, things like that. which didn't occur before. So I think it's very important for us to have that context. So I'd really like to thank the planning department for putting all that effort into making that clear for us. And it's even to the point where when I read this, I feel like I would like to do a historical walking tour and visit some of the places that are described there, so I can kind of better connect with and understand what these places used to be and how they played a role in South Maui. So thank you. You have a comment?
Yeah, I thank you for that, but I really want to give kudos. I went over and tagged Vernon. We had a group called the Alakai, and it was a group of long-standing members throughout the entire process of research and community engagement that we sort of met with every so often. And a huge thank you to Ekolu Lindsay, who came up with the term Alakai. I had found out about this in another community on the mainland when the community was having problems, and they would get together, bipartisan group, and meet every Friday morning and have coffee. The most diverse, opinionated people, and sit around a coffee table to have the sole thing in common of saving their community. So we did that for the first time in West Maui. We started out with 24 people, and we ended up having a core group of 12 to 15. Very different backgrounds, very different opinions, very different stakeholders' interests, but with one thing in common, and that was the love for their community. So Vernon served on the Alakai, and so did several other people, and I just wanted to tag him to say something because they reviewed this section, Rob, and so they really made a lot of changes. I think that really hits the points that you make, so I just wanted to make sure I gave them proper credit.
Thank you. Vernon, you want to say something about that?
So along this Alakai group, I was hoping, more of us could get involved, but with our schedule and our kuleana that we do in our community, it was myself, Foster Ampong, Kanohi, and Tanya Lee Gregg. We went on our own huaka'i throughout South Maui and Honolulu. And all we did is kind of reflect on what we remember South Maui or Kihei back in the past, and a lot of those values that we're missing, so much that we don't have any of that today. But it kind of got us reminding ourselves as residents of South Maui, and even checking ourselves as residents of South Maui. Like, here we have so much remembrance of growing up in South Maui. The challenge is how we how we're going to improve or make do with what we have today, because, we evolve through life. And it's hard, it's challenging, because a lot of what we know of what South Maui was mostly of was wetlands. and back in those days, it was like nobody never lived this side, but somehow it just blew up, like someone just dropped the bomb and boom, we got run over, right? So, and that all happened really quick, really fast, and, I just looking at, you guys, 4 of you right there, you guys grew up here, and we know that, so where we go from here, the wetlands is pretty much done. There's like about 20% left. Good for educate, good to conserve, and do the best. It's always going to be do the best we can. But what we talked about, Pam, right at the get-go, the issue we had with myself, Kanohi, and Tanya, it was that hard to do the cultural thing and do the planning thing collectively when we're not including Mauka. Mamauka not involved in our planning. So, yeah, there was that map that we had earlier, yeah, the division. Yeah, that's the political division, right? And then here we get our sign project, right? The bug on the match, right? So, so here we are doing our part down here, but the culturally appropriate thing to do, which is kind of not in our planning, is we not including the rest of the Mauka, because whatever we do down here, and if they get their own plan, it's probably not going to line up with us down here. So, and we know that our flooding and what happens down here, we always got to point finger to the guys up there, right? But there are efforts that others are trying to work with, what we got to do up Mauka. So that was our Alakai group. There's so much to talk about, and we just kind of put this in a nutshell. And do we get to MacGyver this little bit, or because others may want to do that, or this is kind of concrete? Oh, it's a start.
I'll let Rod take over. It's totally, you can MacGyver all you want. I just wanted to make sure that folks knew how much time and effort you guys put into that.
Yeah, when I reread that this morning, I've read this before, but when I reread it this morning, I was thinking, we really need to make this available to more people. I don't know exactly how, but this is really useful material.
Chair?
Yes.
Just wanted to add on with to what Vernon said. It's really hard to separate the Mauka from the Makai. It's not. Yeah, it's hard for us because it's connected. And in the description of the assets of our South Maui community, there's no mention of Mauka. The old plan, the Kiei Makena Community Plan, talked about our Mauka view planes were an asset. I think that's an asset. Because the way we look at Mauka, we look at it as an ancestor, the Mauna, that we are genealogically connected to the Mauna. And everything starts from the top and flows to the bottom. So you cannot ignore that connection. The impacts of what happens Mauka directly affects our quality of life Makai. We see that with the floods. So the vision statement is good, but you cannot have that vision statement until you correct what's Mauka. It's not going to happen, in terms of the beaches, in terms of the ocean. It's going to be impacted by flooding over and over again because there's nothing stopping it. It's going to happen again. So I appreciate Vernon folks for all the work they put into this. And it's good. I read it. I appreciate the work. But I feel like the Mauka connection is really lacking in the description of South Maui. I don't think you can leave that out. It's a big puka for me.
Cody?
Yeah, just wanted to mahalo everybody who's been on that and who's been adding to that and all your work and all your time. One of the things that kind of caught my attention is the history. We get history, Maui today and Maui tomorrow. And when I look at a lot of the information, it seems like Hawaiian traditions have always been tucked into this corner of history. Although a lot of these things are still being done today, it's very much alive in the Maui today and Maui tomorrow. just adding on some of this Manao, there's so much that we're still learning about the traditions in the past and how they benefit today. Yeah, like the local ia. Like a lot of people just look at the local ia and they think it was just about fish and food, but it mitigated runoff, it mitigated erosion, and so I would like to see added verbiage into like Maui tomorrow or Maui today, that these things are still happening and not always looking at it as, oh, this is something happened a long time ago. Mahalo.
Thank you. So anyone else like to comment on the either the historical part or the entire plan framework section? Vernon? Oh, I'm sorry, Wayne?
I remember telling you people last week to read the historical background, of which I found very interesting. And Daniel said, unless we deal with the wetlands, and I've seen this time and time again during my service in the council, always concerned about Dr. Yee's mango orchard flooding, Dr. Yee telling me, hey, the guy next door filled up all my land, and look at the flooding in my mango orchard. What are you guys going to do with this? And I can remember December 2nd, when I was working down at my daughter's farmer's market, the disaster we had to face, all the flooding. And we've done a bad job as far as protecting the wetlands. Those of you and that serve on this committee, you're really lucky if you live in Kihei, that you never had to deal with the flooding area we're seeing happen when Piilani Highway was put in. When the rain came down from the Mauka, and those of us that lived down there, this place was a total disaster. And unless we deal with the wetlands, South Maui is gone. Look at the road system, Piilani Highway and South Maui Road. Whatever happened to the north-south collector road that we never built yet? When it floods, Maui is going to get dirty leaking because those guys that built the Piilani Highway, they never did understand when it rains on the mountain, the water is going to come down. And look at the poor people that bought the wetlands and now are spending a lot of money having to protect their property. We've done a bad job, and when I was the government, I gotta admit that I did not study enough for my kupuna and ask them enough questions. And this history is beautiful that you guys did from the planning department. Unless we deal with Mauka lands, I want to hear the answers when county government has to deal with the flooding and the water that is going to impact our community living along South Maui. Those of you that are fortunate to live up in Maui Meadows, you're lucky. And what about our community that lives in South Maui? We suck wind? Too bad. You guys bought there? you faced a disaster. Where is after studying this, where is our action plan that we're going to do for those of us that have bought on the wetlands that development has occurred? I look at the recent development that the Planning Commission, and I don't know who from the Planning Department okayed that land behind Longs. That's the wetland. You're going to allow more urban development to occur right there? This is your challenge, Planning Department. You're going to have to give us answers as how we're going to deal with flooding on the wetlands and more development. If we allow more development to occur on the wetlands, once the big rain comes down and coastal erosion comes in, and Keoki can talk about Malaya, what's happening over there. No injection wells, no dealing with doo-doo and urine and stool, that the condos have no answers to how we're going to treat the stool and urine that our visitors are doing right now. We've got a challenge, and I'm not going to sit here being outvoted from any of you that have not learned and read this portion of the history on the South Maui and allow you to close your eyes and allow our community along South Key Road to deal with the flooding that whatever we have to face. After all, don't forget, I hope you guys have a conscience and we can learn by our lessons. And I challenge all 13 of you, 12 of you tonight, including the Planning Department, to give us sensible answers as to how we're going to deal with the flooding on our wetlands, and because we've allowed development to occur here in South Maui. I'm done. I'd like to hear more. Thank you.
So just a second, I'll give you the word in just a second, Kyoki. Sure. So I did look at this morning I reviewed the Kihei McKenna Community Plan again from 1998. It has a bunch of things that address this. Not enough, nowhere near, but none of them have been implemented. None of them. And one of the things I really want to spend time on next week is talking about how we can avoid that, so we're not back here again in 20 years and saying, oh, that was a good idea. Why didn't we do anything about that? So I definitely want to talk about that. But there is stuff in there. There's like 5 objectives and policies which deal with things like MAUC retention and various other things like that, which would have helped. We wouldn't be in the situation we're in today if we had actually implemented what was in the 98 plan. Kyoki.
Thank you, Chair, for your additional mana'o. Appreciate it. I would like to also, like when Cody spoke, mahalo those all involved with the sign projects. I feel proud when I drive around, and I didn't have nothing to do with it, but I feel proud, so mahalo. And the history section, once again, in the book, well put together. I thank you for it. Of course, being a Malaya boy, I was really paying attention to the Malaya area. And when I speak of Malaya, I want everyone to understand that this ecosystem is connected to the rest of the South Maui area and beyond, around the corner to Ukumehame. It's all connected, Makai to Mauka. And Malaya's fragility is like, I cannot express enough how fragile, yeah, the things that when I was a child, the things that we used to harvest from the sea, some of them are non-existent, and it's really hard to talk about. Speaking of wetlands, I don't think sometimes people understand the importance of these wetlands to our ecosystems, the animals that live in them and around them. So when you look like, for instance, in Kihei, by St. Teresa Church, there's an outlet, and there's very little mangrove left, yeah, over there. I haven't been there in a long while, so some of you who are more Maui with it can educate me a little bit better, but when we used to go tinker around there as keiki, I can remember the mangroves very, very, very few. And when I pass through there, I can still see some of the old trees. Mangroves play a huge role in the health of the oceanic ecosystem as far as food chains from small fish to bigger fish. Going back to where I'm from, once again, I'm sorry I'm jumping a little bit around, but my passion kind of leads me there sometimes, you guys, apologies. Kealia, I drive through it every day to go to work. And I think to myself, why are we still driving through this wetland? You know? Isn't there a way that we can drive around it? And to my knowledge, it was proposed as far back as the last CPAC 24 years ago. So I'm like, okay, so at some point, maybe brother over here can slip them in the conversation, you know what I mean? Like, hey, you guys know we can drive around this wetland, yeah? Like the beaches, people walk it every day. You know, Malaini were maybe not as familiar to it, and I'm telling you right now, the sandstone areas that are poking out are a lot more, there was way more sand. This ecosystem is feeling an environmental impact. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I'm smart enough to know exactly what it is, but I'm sitting here telling you that collectively we can figure it out, because it's that important, it's that fragile. So, mahalo for the time.
The wetlands as well are described in the 1998 plan, as well as, like you said, the Kealia bypass road. I mean, it says, for example, just among many things, it says, protect all wetland resources, such as those at Kealia Pond and near Road C. Road C is, you know, that's near what we're talking about right now on South Kihei Road. These open space and wildlife habitat resources are important for flood control and for their natural beauty. So yes, it's not like no one knew anything about these things. We had, reading this, we had some pretty smart people who worked on the 1998 community plan, and they put a lot of really good stuff in there. We just need to figure out a way to get it to actually happen. And so I want to talk about that next time.
Chair, I have something to say. So this is extremely well written, and I appreciate all the effort. Thank you to everyone. I've learned so much. There are some details within it that are not accurate. So for instance, minor, but like the golf courses in Wailea, there's 3 now, not 4. So are we going through the language of this to edit it at this meeting? Is that the purpose, or is that for something else?
Thank you for the question, and I just got whispered in my ear by Pam that we decide that. In other words, if we feel that that should be changed, then we can do that. But we don't have to. It's up to us if we feel it's, and they're taking notes. So if a motion is made to make a change, then we can vote on that.
I think it'd be important to note, I mean, I don't know the history of the golf courses. Will they, Barry left, but will they have it? Will they bring that course back? I don't know, but right now there's 3. So is that something we'd like to, should I put a motion to remove that or change that from 4 to 3? Is that how it's done? Oh, yes, I'm on page 21.
So there were 4 golf courses, correct?
Yes.
So it actually just says that the first of 4 golf courses was completed.
Okay.
unless I'm missing a different place where it says they all still exist.
Yeah, no, that's where I was referring to. So I guess in that context, it's fine to leave it because of the sentence. At the time, there were 4. Is that what you were saying? Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
But if you guys would like to make, like there was an amendment to mention the Mauka view planes and bring Hawaiian culture, if you could point out these specific sections and say, what's the words? You trust us to write the right language?
Is there a specific proposal from Daniel?
Yeah, I think I brought that up about the view plane. So that's taken from page 22, South Maui Today. Page 22. It reads the first sentence. The South Maui region has exceptional community assets. It is renowned for its iconic coastline, world-class beaches, enjoyable climate, popular resort areas, and cultural resources. I guess in there, I can see putting in somewhere in there. It's also renowned for its Mauka view planes. You know, when you drive down Pi'ilani Highway, what stands out? It's the Mauna Haleakala and Mauna Ka'alawai. But on Pi'ilani Highway, that's what you see. So I think that's something that we all enjoy, whether we're residents or visitors, the Mauka view plane.
So could that be incorporated into the second sentence?
I have the motion as adding to the second sentence, Mauka view planes.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second for that motion? There were seconds. Any more discussion about adding the Mauka view planes to the second sentence on page 22? Nope. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion is motion passed.
Chair.
Chair. Oh.
Yes.
Chair, on page 9, we all good with that South Maui Aupua designation? Maybe not, yeah. Any ideas? Anybody have ideas on that? Page 9, South Maui Aupua. Maybe that title is incorrect.
Where are we, Bernie?
Page 9. Shucks, yeah, page 9. Oh, yeah, it looked like on Aupua, but that bug going north-south, yeah. That's just me, but yeah, just throwing out that. I just caught that, that's all. I just caught that, so it's something we can think about maybe later. South Maui north-south. Something. So yeah, because that kind of be Aupua, right?
So do you mean that they're truncated because they don't go to Mauka?
Yeah.
Would you like the shadow, like a shadow added to where it goes Mauka, so it shows the entire Ahapua'a?
No, when you look at this, it's not. So if we're talking Aupua, then we can go Hafokole, Makai to Mauka, right? Let's say if we take Kaunulu. Kaunulu, on this map only go halfway, yeah? So we, you know what I mean? Either way, you cannot designate. It's like you took Ki'ipukoa and you cut Ki'ipukoa into, and we call it Kihei, which is not Kihei. So I guess just being culturally appropriate, I just putting it out there because I'm not sure myself like how change that title on top, South Maui, Aopua. Because when you look Mauka to Makai, we're not honoring the entire Aopua. And then if we look north to south, that is the South Maui political Aopua, maybe. Yeah, maybe we can put South Maui political Aopua. You guys can be creative too, right? So.
Okay, just 1 second. I wonder if we couldn't do two things. And one is change it to Ahupua'a in South Maui, and the other thing is to show the connection to Mauka, to draw the boundaries up. Would that be kind of what you're thinking?
Oh, I see what you're thinking, but we cannot do that because the Mauka guy is not included, right? So we're just honoring what we're representing for the South Maui CPAC.
Vernon?
I don't know.
Hey, Kathleen, raise your hand.
I just have a suggestion, Vernon. What if you change the title to just say as depicted within the South Maui Community Plan boundary, so that it's clear that you're only looking at it within this boundary. Yeah. And like what Karen said is we could shade it so you show it going all the way up Mauka, like a line. So it's just like in gray, but it shows its continuity up the mountain, or we don't, and you just change the title to say that it's only within the community plan district boundary.
Yeah, that wouldn't harm anything to, enhance that, the Mauka area, but the South Maui community or South Maui community boundaries, that would be good for that title. I mean, if you guys, because we're just talking about what we're looking at right now, that's the boundary for our South Maui community plan. Yep.
I think we need a motion, a motion that expresses exactly what the planning department should put in there.
Do you want me to repeat what you said? So Ahapua'a in South Maui Community Plan District Boundary as the title. The motion is to change the title to Ahapua'a in the South Maui Community Plan District Boundary, and to add a gray shade to show them extended past the boundary.
Yeah, so just so we understand, we're changing South Maui Aopua to the South Maui Boundary Community Plan? Is that, which one come first? Plan community or, I forget which one. Yeah, so yeah, that's the motion, thanks.
Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Cody seconds. Could you read that back again, Karen, so we know exactly what we're voting for?
The motion is to change the title of the South Maui Ahapua'a to the Ahapua'a in South Maui Community Plan Boundary, and add the gray shading on the map to show where the Ahapua'a go.
Any discussion? Further discussion about this proposal? Yes.
I gotta just move a little bit on this. So we're taking South Maui Aopua, we're dumping that bugger, and then we're gonna put South Maui District Community Plan or Boundary Community Plan. Because we gotta take Aopua out. You guys can come up with other, Cody and you guys follow this? Yeah, so we got to get Aopua out. We got, because this is a political plan we're participating in. And however we dream up whatever works for us in our CPAC boundary, because that's not an Aopua. You guys know what I mean? I mean, you guys can add. Sorry, 2.0. Tonight my birthday and my anniversary, so my wife I can feel her, right? So I'm the only guy that would vote for 25 and 27. All you guys would choose 26. But I still going to come, yeah. So no, it's okay. Just change, take the Aupua out, and dream something else. I mean, if you guys have something else, thanks.
I do see that.
Sorry taking so long on this.
So Vern, I do see, and this is in support of what you want to say, that on the second, I guess, paragraph after the figure 1.4, the Ahupua originate from the leeward slopes of Haleakala. So because it states that it should show that, is that what we're saying? If you read that paragraph, the second to the, or last sentence, I think, of that, on page 8, second paragraph down from the bottom, last sentence. So after the 1.4, so that is correct, what it's saying, but it's not reflective in the picture?
Yeah. So we okay with the South Maui Aupua? I mean, you guys not?
No, that's not what I'm saying. It should be reflective of, like, yeah, I would like to see a little bit more added to the picture, because everybody look picture first. So I think it's important to put the proper verbiage. I was just stating that as a support to, it's supposed to reflect the going to Haleakala, yeah? Or so.
So we have a motion, but Vernon, are you good with the motion as Karen read it back, or do you want to change that?
You guys okay with that description of?
I mean, one other option is just remove the word Ahupua altogether.
Yeah, I figured, I thought that was what we're agreeing on, was taking Ahupua out, right? Yeah.
I understand that this is culturally incorrect, and that's why I'm suggesting the gray, because it's to show where the Ahupua should be and that they are cut off. So maybe if we have language to say the cut off Ahupua in the political boundary, or you just don't want Ahupua at all and you just want South Maui. Okay, just give us the verbiage.
Sorry not to complicate things anymore, but I think if the intent is to show the Ahupua, we can do that and then add a legend, because it's a map, that just says that this is the South Maui Community Plan boundaries, so that we show the extent of all the Ahupua and then also show just kind of this yellow area as its own component of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. So if you can do that, and we can make sure we put those details in there. Yeah, because it is confusing, but it's not our fault.
I got a question.
Okay, yeah.
If Kupuna were listening to you, what you're doing to the Ahupua, cutting it in half and destroying it altogether, would that be acceptable to Kupuna?
No, so that's why they suggesting like a legend go up Mauka, right?
A legend to explain that part of it is in the boundaries and the rest of the Ahupua goes up Mauka.
And then the boundaries going up the gray side, right?
Yeah.
So, and what Uncle Wayne is suggesting.
What I'm saying is it's offensive to Kupuna.
Yeah, that's
You're
right.
eliminating Ahupua, and you're putting in Western words and eliminating the whole cultural importance. Listen to what your Kupuna taught you.
Yeah.
I think that's offensive.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do a Western
It's
fix
not-
with language,
Yeah, so,
and erase everything.
yeah, I get what you're saying. That's why it just grabbed me right at the beginning, because you see how difficult this is when we started the Alaka'i. You know, we just came out right off the back that, you know, how this gonna work when we're not doing the full connection. So look at the map that we're working with now. It's just half Okole. You know, we cut in the Aupua, the completeness of the Aupua. So for me, it's hard, and it sucks because it puts me in a spot that I always got to make adjustments to what we're dealing with in the now. So that's what caught me right off the back is, you know, it's not an Aupua. It's a, you know, yeah. So again, you know, that's why I'm asking, you know, what would be the right way to label this bugger, because as one Kanaka, it's a no. But then I have to figure out how to come up with the right verbiage, which I cannot come up with as a Kanaka. So
Can I make?
Yeah.
So Karen, could you read back what you're thinking here?
So that one, first of all, the original motion needs to be taken off the floor before we can make another motion, because Vernon does not like the language as it was originally stated. And then I can make another suggestion that I think would be a better one.
Okay, so since Vernon made the original motion, do you want to withdraw that so we can start from scratch?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So instead, just call it the Ahapua'a map, and then put the full Ahapua'a for each one, and have the community plan area outlined and in orange, kind of the colors it is, but have the Ahapua'a fully shown.
Yeah.
Does that?
I mean, yeah, I'm okay with that. You guys okay with that?
So, I'd like to add, when you're depicting an Ahupua'a, then you just got to show the whole Ahupua'a. And if you're going to depict the South Maui boundary, then you're going to depict the South Maui boundary. I think there's confusion because when you say Ahupua'a, you're not disconnecting anything. You're representing an entire watershed from Haleakala all the way to Makai. So I think in the Hawaiian community, they would look at it as like, okay, what am I looking at? You know what I mean? If you have Ahupua'a there, because you kind of designate that word, basically.
So Karen can't make the motion. One of us needs to make the motion. Do you want to make the motion, Vernon?
So, yeah, so the motion is going to be in support of like what Cody just was saying, yeah? I mean, so culturally, in Ahupua'a, obviously, you have to acknowledge the whole thing. That's what, I'm just repeating what Cody's saying, pretty much, so excuse me, you guys. And I think I'm getting where you're going, where we acknowledge the whole Ahupua'a, Mauka to Makai, and then you're saying to just depict the South Maui community plan boundary, correct? I mean, just show where the boundary is, yeah? But
So like, I would like to make a motion to either create an Ahupua'a map that shows the entire Ahupua'a without any designations, or a map that doesn't say Ahupua'a that shows the boundaries.
second? Is that an official motion?
Second, yes. I do want to get that read back by, I want to get that read back by Karen so we know what we're voting on.
to have an entire Ahupua'a map without the boundaries and a separate map that shows the boundaries?
So I think that that both can be accommodated there because the map will show the Ahupua'a all the way up, but there'll also be an outline of where South Maui Community Plan District is. So, I mean, that's kind of important to see where we are in relation to the Ahupua'a. But someone needs to make that motion. I don't think we heard a second, so I think we can make that motion. So if Cody, you want to formulate your motion again?
So I would like to make a motion to make both an Ahupua'a map and a boundary designation map for the South Maui planning area.
And then we also want to include a change of the title where it now says South Maui Ahupua'a.
Yeah, so the Ahupua'a map will basically be the entire Ahupua'a with no designation, and the other map will be with the boundary lines. Yeah.
And do we have a second for that motion? Okay, seconds. Okay, could you read it back to us, Karen?
I'm a little confused on the titles, actually, sorry. So I understand the two separate maps. So what would you like the Ahupua'a map to be called, and what would you like the boundary map? Would you just like the South Maui boundaries and the South Maui Ahupua'a? Are you okay with the South Maui Ahupua'a, or do you just want Ahupua'a of South Maui?
Yeah, that's fine. South Maui Ahupua'a.
Hey, so I can say something.
Wait, Vernon.
You see how confusing this burger gets? Because you see how hard, yeah, to, it's hard. We stay put in one spot that, we're not ma to this. I mean, going through all the motions, I got dizzy with all the motions. I was always going to say locomotion. I was going to make one locomotion. Okay. Yeah. Kalamai. We got to take that Ahupua'a out. So maybe like South Maui.
Kalamai, I just wanted to ask one clarifying question.
Yeah, we get a hot time.
For me, what I'm hearing is it sounds like the issue is South Maui Ahupua'a, and there is no such thing. So you correct the title to be more accurate and reflective to either be South Maui region or district or Ahupua'a maps of the area.
So we agree on the maps, the two different maps. But the South Maui Ahupua'a.
So what is an appropriate word in place of Ahupua'a? Because I understand what you're trying to get to. That's like one inaccuracy that you don't want to kind of perpetuate is what I'm hearing. So is district or region more appropriate?
Yeah, district would, I'm okay with district, because it's within our plan, right? So the planning is in our South Maui district. Yeah, it's in our South Maui district. The Ahupua'a will cause confusion.
Okay. I think I might have to remotion that one.
Oh, we gotta make motion. Sheesh, a lot of motion.
Do you guys want to vote on the two separate maps, and then we can make those and come back with titles next meeting, and we'll just have those maps for you guys to look at? And what about Ahupua'a for one map, and the other one could be South Maui district boundaries, because that's completely separate. Does that work? Just separating it out?
That would work. Yeah, that would work. You have designation of the Ahupua'a, and then Or South Maui District. Okay. But we get one. Oh, we get one. Oh, we get one already.
Yeah, in my mind, what this is intended to show is the intersection of the South Maui district with the Ahupua'a. That was the intention, and it happened to be done in a way which cuts them off and makes them no longer Ahupua'a. So I don't know if that's an acceptable way to title it. That South Maui intersection with the Ahupua'a, or Ahupua'a that intersect with South Maui.
If I understand, put the Ahupua'a first and then the boundary district after, right? Because it's more important to show the Ahupua'a, and then when we're talking about the boundaries, if that makes a difference in terms of what is more important, I think. I don't know.
Would it be acceptable for us to create some options and bring them back to you? Okay.
We actually have I think in our schedule planned time for next meeting if we don't finish today on this particular topic. So we could do that, right?
Okay.
And we can still finish in 6 months. That's my point. You want to do that? Give them some time to come up with a proposal we can look at next time. I think what we're trying to get at is clear. They just need to come up with a way to express it.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
We have a motion on the floor.
We have a motion, but what's in that motion isn't entirely clear to me. So the motion was made by Cody, I believe, and seconded by Keoki. So either we clarify that motion again and vote on it right now, or we withdraw the motion and we look at what they offer next time.
Yeah, I would withdraw my motion and we look at the options.
Thank you.
Well, I move that there be 2 maps. Well, I think what we're doing is we're dividing up the question into 2 separate motions. The first motion would be just on the map issue. So I would move that we do 2 maps, as has been discussed, that we vote on that motion, and then there'd be a subsequent motion which would give the staff authority to come up with some titles for the 2 maps that we could then address to the next meeting. But that will be a subsequent motion. The motion I'm making now is to approve 2 maps.
All right, I'll second that.
Okay, motion and second by Cody. So please wait until I recognize you, just so everyone gets a chance to speak. We'll discuss this, but my preference would actually be to let the planning department come up with some options we can choose from, rather than. I am having a hard time visualizing what these 2 maps will look like. But if we let them come up with some ideas, we can. And I think they get the picture. I think you guys understand where we're coming from and what we're trying to achieve here. So,
Mr. Chairman, call the question.
Okay, so the motion is to request 2 maps, but we haven't defined yet what those maps should be. Is that correct?
I think that can be discussed as we discuss the motion, but I believe the 2 map issue has been thoroughly vetted thus far, and so my motion refers back to those conversations.
Okay, any further discussion on this motion?
Discussion.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you don't have the meets and the bounds of the ahupua you're talking about. Normally, in Hawaiian culture, the ahupua starts from the mountain to the ocean. And if somebody can tell me, when you're discussing ahupua, what if that portion of the map has some cultural significance, burials, or whatever. And we know that in all history, the Hawaiians were smarter than we are today. They farmed during the rainy season and fished during the summer times. And I'm sure if you uncover important burial grounds, what does the three of you have to say to me tonight when you discuss Ahupua'a? I want to learn.
Say it, Cody.
So, in regards to the Kumulipo, the Ahupua'a actually begins from the shoreline up, starting with the coral polyps and everything that is formed, all the life forms that are formed, that become Mauka to Makai. So I just wanted to make sure that we understood that we always think of the Ahupua'a system as this Mauka to Makai, but it really begins from Makai to Mauka and then Mauka to Makai. Mahalo.
For me, for the Ahupua'a, especially here on Maui and particularly here in Kula, Moku, not all the Ahupua'as reach Mauka to Makai. Above Piilani Highway, there's more than a dozen more above Piilani Highway that goes up Mauka. A lot of those Ahupua'a, they don't reach all the way to the kai for us, yeah. So if you see the signs on Salkihi Road and Piilani Highway, those are the Ahupua'as that reach us and goes up Mauka. But there's plenty more up Mauka in the Moku of Kula. The simple description for me for the Ahupua'a, it's a self-sustaining nature's system to provide for us, humans. But that only works, if Mauka do their part, and then trickles down, and then everybody have their kuleana to manage their area, and then you have us near the kai do our part. So if we cut off the Ahupua'a in between, then it's not living, kind of. It's not living. It's like when you cut our cultural names, it's not complete. For me, it's not living also. So not only talking about on top the aina, but what happens below too, yeah? So we have a lot of water running from Mauka, Kula, underneath us as we speak, and then exit out to the kai. So even like when we do construction and we cut into those veins, those streams that run underneath, and even when we have development and we tap those springs, such as the new high school, they cut that water system that's supposed to reach to the kai. That water system still and should be still intact with the Ahupua'a because it functions together. So it's a natural resource, and we need that to sustain. So that's how I see the Ahupua'a. It's the name that is given whenever it was given back then. It needs to remain intact as the name that it represents for that area, and then the kuleana. So each Ahupua'a get the kuleana and the purpose, and they kind of rub off from each other accordingly to their neighbors of the other Ahupua'a. they all coincide together collectively. And when we cut, whether it's the name or through development or then we cut into a living, breathing, sustainable system that nature had provided for us, kind of thing. So yeah, the question you asked, Uncle Wayne, it's very valid, and that is correct. That, you know, and then these name places relates to our kupuna too. So that's why it's challenging for me and others, you know. It's how we going to uphold what our kupuna has shared with us in the past, or even continue to talk to us today. How are we going to do that? Because we don't, it's not the same, 60, you know, 70, you know, back then, so.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, yes.
I want to state for the record, when you guys talk about culture preservation, and I'm sure you know about, in speaking to your kupuna, your elders, how important it was to save the Pi'ilani. This is called the King's Highway, where the king traveled around the island, and I'm sure, as we see in Maui being desecrated and developed, portions of our King's Highway being desecrated. And I bring this up to you guys tonight because maybe you need to speak to Kupuna before you make this important decision. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion. We have a motion and we had a second. Do we have a second for this? Yes, we did. Okay, so the motion was to request 2 maps. And is the request clear? Okay.
Is the request to have 2 maps in the plan and we're just coming up with the language? Or is the request for us to come up with options for you guys to look at?
Two maps. Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes.
The idea of the motion was to divide the 2 issues. One, let's decide on the 2 maps we have discussed, having a map which is the Ahabuaha, and then we have a map of the planning districts. We are separating that motion in order to move forward, and then we can discuss what to call those maps, although there had been conversation about letting staff come back with options at the next meeting. But on this motion, Mr. Chairman, it's simply to move forward and say we're going to have the 2 maps. Titles will come later. Thank you.
Just to clarify, so one of the maps is not the figure 1-2? Okay.
2 maps.
Right, I mean, one of the maps is not this, the one that shows the planned district boundaries?
Correct. And one will be the Ahabuaha.
What I'm saying is we have a map which shows the planned district boundaries. That's figure 1-1.2 in the binder. So do we need? Right. In other words, is one of these maps not already a map of the community plan district boundaries? Do we need another one of those?
The second map I will leave to the planning staff in order to develop based on the conversations they have heard tonight.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
The map that you're referring to, the planning map, is that what you're referring to? You're saying we already have that?
There is a map that shows the boundaries of the...
Exactly.
The
what I'm saying is on that second map of planning districts, I think I'll rely on the planning department to come up with a map that represents the conversation around the table tonight.
clarify something? So
Yes.
as far as I understand, so page 9, figure 1.4, right? You're going to delete the wording, but you're going to keep this map because it shows the boundaries that is acceptable, right? And then the next map.
I have no problem with that.
Oh, no. So I'm agreeing with you, just clarifying. And then the second map that we're asking for is to clearly show the ahupua'a. So therefore, we will have 2 maps instead of 1. And then we're asking for the title recommendation, not only from the planning department, from anybody else for the next meeting. So we already get 1 map, but we have to make a motion to now have 2 maps. Correct?
The member is correct.
Okay, I am not clear on this because I understand that one map will show the ahupua'as, but what will the other map show, which is not already in a different map, which is already in the binder?
Rob, can I talk? I really appreciate the discussion tonight. I think it will move along a lot faster if we come back with options for you guys to approve. Because I'm unclear on what you want at this point, and I don't think any of you guys are exactly clear on what you want right now. I know I have some great ideas for how to show what you've talked about, but I'm not doing a great job of explaining it. And we can come back with options that you guys can say yes, no, no, yes. And I think that is a better way to move forward than trying to say, we want 2 maps, this map's gonna have this, and this map's gonna have this, because I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, Leila explained it very, very succinctly exactly what the motion is attempting to do. Not trying to create confusion on maps. I think that clarifies it. What we are saying is if we want to move forward with another motion to give the planning department permission to come up with options on titles for those 2 maps, they're more than welcome to do that. But I think the explanation that was made by my colleague as to what the intention of the motion is correct. And I would again call the question.
Okay, any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Tom, you were kind of rude. She was trying to explain to us what her thoughts were when you interrupted. Why don't you let her finish talking?
I apologize. I thought she was done. I do apologize for that. I thought she had completed her comments. So I do apologize. That was my error.
I was actually done. But I would beg of you not to just say 2 maps, because we're going to come up with 2 maps and they might not be what you like. If you say that we can come back to you with options, we can give you options. I'm begging you.
Yeah. We do have a motion. We do have a motion on the table. So I'm going to put this to the vote. So the motion, I believe, is to request 2 maps from the planning department for next time.
No, what Karen is trying to say, and I am fully supporting her, is that if you could just not limit us to 2 maps, we will come up with a variety of options and somehow we'll hit the mark. But a variety of options that you guys get to select. That's what she's saying.
That's what I suggested, but that's not what the motion is. The motion is 2 maps. So I suggest, I would request that you withdraw that and allow the planning department to come up with options so we can look at them and see what it is we're going to be adopting.
Mr. Chairman, you want to make that as a friendly amendment? I think
I request that you withdraw it and that we let the planning department come up with options that we can look at, because I think they have heard us. I think they're trying to do what we want. It's just that we need to be able to see these to know that we're getting what we want. And we can do that next time. We have time allotted for this next time.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to have moved the discussion forward. I think it's clarified, and I withdraw my motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I'm sure we'll be we'll have a good discussion about this next time. We'll be able to have a more constructive discussion because we'll actually be able to look at some things. And it may not be perfect then either, but I think we'll at least be able to point out what it is we like and we don't like about what they propose, which is hard to do right now. Any further discussion on this section before we close for today? Cody?
I would like to make a motion to add some verbiage on page 11. So right on that last sentence before it goes into the organization, could we add like, there are still traditions and customs that are being done today, along with, and then, an example is the organization, just to kind of clarify that a lot of these customs and traditions are still being perpetuated today.
So is the idea that this is not the only organization, this is one of the organizations?
Right. Just to kind of clarify that, because this whole area is on history, but I would like to kind of add verbiage to kind of say that it's still continuing, basically. Yeah, there's still traditions and...
Do you have a sentence that you could propose?
These traditions are still being upheld today.
So that sentence will be added to the paragraph above the blue area?
Yeah, right before that last sentence.
Before the last sentence. Okay. Karen, did you get that?
Can you read the last part of the sentence you wanted to put us? Oh, so right before the organization Au Loko Ia o Maui is working with the community to revitalize it. Say these traditions are still being perpetuated today. For example, the organization Au.
Yes.
Do I have a second? Everett seconds. And any further discussion on the proposal? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion is adopted. I just realized that the chair is not supposed to vote unless there's a tie or something. So I was trying to remember not to do that.
Chair?
Yes.
I have one more amendment.
Yes.
It's back on page 20 again, where we were looking at community assets. Page 20, South Maui region has exceptional community assets. And then I wanted to add this to the following sentence, where it is renowned for iconic coastlines, et cetera, and so forth. So what I wanted to add is dark skies. And the reason I say dark skies is because a lot of cultural activities occur under dark skies. And it's important to have dark skies in order to perpetuate those cultural practices. South Maui is losing its dark skies. There are areas that still have dark skies where you can see the sky at night. You can see the stars, the moon, the planets, the constellations, and so on and so forth. The further south you go, the more dark skies you have. But I think our visitors also enjoy the dark skies. They like walking on the beach at night and appreciate the night sky. It's kind of their view of a vacation on Maui. They like going out to Keoneoio Bay, for example. I have friends who come and they say, let's go out there so we can look at the stars, we can look at the meteor showers or any special events. They like going out there because you can see it. Dark skies are important to us, and they're also important to our creatures of the ocean and creatures that fly, all kinds of creatures, native animals. So, in my opinion, dark skies is an important community asset, and I don't want to lose it. I want to protect it. That's why we mention these community assets, because they're things that we want to keep and not lose. So I'd like to make a motion that we add dark skies to the list of iconic community assets.
So this is the second sentence on page 22.
Yeah, so you could, it's renowned for its iconic coastline, world-class beaches, and then wherever you want to put in dark skies in that list, I'd just like to add dark skies.
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded? It was Everett seconded, okay. More discussion? Tom?
I'd like to speak in favor of this amendment. What Daniel has touched on is something that is very important to us here on the island. And worldwide, we see the illumination of dark skies and the impact it's having on birds and other animals. So I strongly support this motion. And I think it brings up something that Daniel saw early on this evening in the discussion. When we read the description that he's just read and others, I don't know what makes an iconic coastline. It sounds well written. I don't know what it means. It comes off the tongue nicely, iconic coastline. But it seems to there's a bias towards looking at the land as north-south kind of, rather than an east-west kind of look, which is much more holistic. And I can see that in the maps. I've seen maps of the Ahupua'a, which come mountain or Makai to Mauka. There are those maps. So I think we have to be careful when we're looking at this plan not to get trapped in that Western linear thinking of the layout of lands and how it's done, because that's not how it really worked. And so I just think we should be careful. I think what Daniel's touching on with the mountains and with the dark skies all go into that larger question, which is how do we see South Maui? Is it like just linear, or do we see more? So I just want to make those comments and urge us to keep that in mind.
This proposal is about adding dark skies to the second sentence. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Rob, can I speak? It is now 8:52.
Yes.
And you guys do have next week to also work on this same chapter. It would be an awesome time to bring back any kahakos that are missing, okinas. I did my best, but it might not be perfect. And any other changes you would like. If we could discuss that next week, we are already 20 minutes past time.
Well, I thank everyone's for their patience and staying on to finish this. But so we do have that option, and like I said, I think we can still finish in 6 months, even if we continue this discussion next time. But is there anyone who would like to raise anything right now rather than wait until next week about this section? Kyoki?
Real quick, just so everyone understands, like you hear this discussion in the last hour, this is how important this cultural aspect is of how we plan and how we view things. Some people who aren't as Maui with our culture may not quite understand, but I'm happy that everyone is open and hearing Because again, it's significant, you guys. Something that may seem insignificant is very significant because of the aspects of relationships that everything has all around us, below us, above us, side of us. So thank you for everyone for being patient in listening into this Hawaiian discussion. Yeah? Mahalo nui.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing that up because it is important, and this is the section where it's currently most present, and so I'm glad that we're able to address that. Anything further before we adjourn today? Okay. I don't think we need to vote on that. You do? You do? Yes, you do. Okay. We actually do need to vote. Sorry about that. We may have some people who vote against this. So, those in favor of adjourning? Those opposed? Okay. Now, meeting is adjourned.